want to start off by giving all praises to Yahawah, Bahashim, Yahawah Shai, Bahashim, Rakah Huadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who teacheth the Bible in 100% truth. And shalom to the hopeful elect of the 12 tribes of Israel, starting with the 144,000 consisting of the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans in the land of North, Central, and South America, as well as the speckled bird, the Israelite foreigners who live amongst the other nations, looking like the other nations. Shalom to you. Today I'm looking at the subject of fear of Yahawah, Bahashim, Yahawah Shai. Yahawah being the name of the one they call God, the Most High, the Heavenly Father, the top of the pile, the King of the universe. His true name is Yahawah, which is a Paleo-Hebrew word. You go back to the Old Testament, these scriptures were written in Paleo-Hebrew. You go to the New Testament, which was pretty much written in ancient Greek. So understanding these two languages, or being able to translate from the English to one of these two languages, gives you a better understanding on the scriptures. And so with that, we know the true name of the Most High Yahawah is Yahawah, and his son, the Messiah, his only begotten son, is Yahawah Shai. He saves. And so that is talking about the fear. I'm talking about the fear of Yahawah, Bahashim, Yahawah Shai. Fear comes in many levels. Fear can drive you on to achieving a goal that you thought was difficult. You have a task in front of you. You think, now I'm never going to achieve it. But then the fear of maybe failure, or the fear of the consequences of not achieving that goal, drive you forward to complete the goal when initially you thought it was impossible. Or fear can also keep people in order. And you've got these different religions around the world, various religions that have been created, and ultimately they're designed out of fear in order to control and manipulate groups of people. You have there's only one Most High, there's only one creator of the planet, of the human race, and there's only one Messiah, Yahawah, Bahashim, Yahawah Shai. There's only one human race, there's only one planet that we're actually dealing with at the minute, contemplating about, and that is the planet Earth. And so in a logical, sensible world, you'd assume that the people on that planet Earth who have been created by these supernatural powers would then pay reverence to that supernatural power. But as the scriptures tell us, the Most High has let the devil loose for a little season. So there's a lot of wickedness out there, and there's a lot of demons on people's minds, and then a lot of false idols and gods have been created through that. One of those false types of worship, if you like, is science, and then science does a job of driving you away from the thinking of a Most High towards the thinking of coincidence, and things just happen by chance. And a lot of people, even though they say that they believe in these religions, these religions were initially created out of fear. Somebody wanted to control a group of people. He liked the idea of a Most High, took it from the Bible, adjusted the story, manipulated the rules, created a new book, a new religion, and then held control over a group of people. And that group of people, there are many groups of people and there are many religions. And so these people do follow these religions, but at the same time, when you look at, for example, the people in the West, they have this religion of Christianity. Ultimately, things like science override that. And so now, they think that everything's a coincidence. They believe in the Big Bang Theory. Yet they'll go to church and follow this so-called religion, this so-called worship, which is Christianity. And so ultimately, we know that we live in a world where there's a real lack of fear of the true divine power, which is Yahawah, Bahashim, Yahawah Shai, and a true lack of fear of consequence and consequences of actions. So we're seeing that going on. at the minute. You have these people that were out there clapping to this eclipse. That is a symbol from the heavens given to the children of the Most High, who are the Hebrew Israelites, and we are able to look at that symbol and determine it, and we know it signifies something, and we believe it signifies the oncoming Jacob's trouble, letting us know that is something that is about to happen, Lord willing, within this biblical Hebrew year, the biblical calendar. According to the biblical calendar, the Hebrew biblical calendar, we believe within this year that this might happen. So that sign creates fear within us, yet it also creates excitement, because we look at it and we say, okay, the end is nigh, and it's something that only the elect, there's only a very small group of people on this planet Earth, and they are known in the scriptures as the elect, the 144 and the elect. And these particular people are the only people that can really look forward to the day of the Most High. So, that symbol, the R and the Tha, the solar eclipse on Monday, the 8th of April, and that to us was a sign. It was just to say, get ready for what's about to happen. So, on one hand we fear, yet on the other hand, we're excited. But a lot of these people out here, like I say, they're clapping, and there's no fear in them. There's no knowledge. You go to Psalms 111 and 10. It says, the fear of Yahawah is the beginning of wisdom, and a good understanding have all they that do his commandments. His praise endureth forever. So fearing Yahawah, knowing that he exists. See, first you have to believe that he exists, that he is to be, and he exists. So that is Yahawah. That's why you're calling on Yahawah. And then once you believe, then you have the fear. A lot of Israelites come into this truth. They find out that they're a Hebrew Israelite. They find out that the Edomites are due to go into captivity soon. And they have this phrase, we got next. And I've explained before, at that point, these particular Israelites, they've reached full capacity. They've reached the limit when it comes to the knowledge. They can't absorb any more. And then they run off with that. And they think, they give you the phrase, I'm a Hebrew Israelite, but they're living according to philosophies and ideologies of the world. And we say to you that these people they're not going to be delivered. They're not going to be considered part of the elect just because you're a Hebrew Israelite. And ultimately, the problem with them is they don't have fear. So with that, maybe Christianity has taught them not to fear the Most High. They lived in their lives through the religion of Christianity, and now they found out that they're a Hebrew Israelite. They like the idea that they're going to be kings and the Edomites are going into captivity, but they still address their life in the mentality of a Christian, as if there's nothing to fear from the Most High. So because the fear never took hold, it says here, the fear of Yahawah is the beginning of wisdom. So they never even got to the beginning of wisdom. You're a Hebrew Israelite, and we got next. That the reason why you're under these curses, but that's all you know. You never considered, you never allowed the fear, or Yahawah Bahashim Yahawah Shai, ultimately never put the fear on you to fear him. So here you are, you're a so-called Hebrew Israelite, but you don't fear the Most High. So you didn't even reach the beginning of wisdom. Knowing you're a Hebrew Israelite is then obviously not considered wisdom. You have to then fear the Most High, consider, and there's many more points of view and bits of information to take on board, which will grow your knowledge, your wisdom, and it's all through fearing of Yahawah Bahashim Yahawah Shai. This is Apostle Paul speaking to the Church of Corinth. This is the book of 2 Corinthians 5 and 10 says, for we must all appear before the judgment seat of the anointed, that every one may receive the things done in his body, according to that he hath done, whether it be good or bad. So, when we pass away, we die, our spirit goes to Yahawah Bahashim Yahawah Shai, up to the seat and to the throne, and we see the Most High, and then he'll tell us what we've done and what type of judgment we'll receive in our next lifetime when we're back on our spirit is back on this planet through our father's bloodline. It says, knowing therefore the terror of the Lord, we persuade men, but we are made manifest unto the Most High, and I trust also are made manifest in your conscience. And that's the reason why we come out and teach. Those that come out and teach correctly, it says here, knowing therefore the terror of the Lord, we persuade men. You've got false prophets out here that are happy to, accept money in exchange for changing up the truth. And clearly there's no fear of the Most High, because how will that money help you, when it comes to coming face to face with Yahawah? It's not going to help. And again, with these Hebrew Israelites that find out that they're Hebrew Israelites, and they look at the truth in the mentality of a Christian, where they don't fear the Most High, so they never take on the knowledge. And these particular people, they don't know the terror of the Most High. Otherwise, they wouldn't do the things that they would be doing. We understand the terror, through different scenarios, through the examples in these scriptures, through different events that we've been through. Yahawah, by Hashem, Yahawah lets us know of the terror that he can create, and ultimately that's what's driving me to, for myself, to make these particular videos. I don't have anyone that rings me up to check if I've made a video. Nobody eggs me on, nobody to persuade me, nobody knocks on my door, comes around and says, yeah, I'm going to get you in the mood. Nobody comes to read any scriptures with me, but yet I keep making the videos. It's the fear. That's what it is. I explained I had the vision, and ultimately that's what's waking me up to this truth. The angel came and told me that I'm an Israelite, and so on and so forth. I found teachers to learn the scriptures, and that whole event with the vision, on one hand it's 50% fear, definitely 50% fear, because you're shook. You're shown these things in the through holographic scenario. You're shown these visions. You see the angel, Yahawah, like I say, with the last thing to happen in the vision was Yahawah going over the top, flying over the top of me, and that bit left me feeling scared. But at the same time, 50% was joy. So I was like, this is amazing. This is like it's something undescribable in terms of joyous. So, like I say, the elect have this dual effect going on, where you're going to be amazed. You look at the wondrous works of Yahawah, by Hashem, Yahawah, you're in awe. You ask for help, but at the same time you have to have the fear. Without the fear, you don't even start on the path of wisdom. So when you look up, I looked into the blue letter of fear and wisdom, and you have 7 precepts where these two particular words go together. This is Job 28:28. As unto man he said, behold, the fear of the Lord, that is wisdom, and to depart from evil is understanding. We've read this one already, Psalms 1:1 and 10. The fear of Yahawah is the beginning of wisdom, a good understanding have all they that do his commandments. His praise endureth forever. So you need to fear the Most High to then begin on the journey of wisdom. And then Job 28:28 says, the fear of the Lord, that is wisdom, and to depart from evil is understanding. So you'll only depart from evil if you start to gain the wisdom. You fear the Most High, so then that drives you to learn these scriptures, go to your teachers, find out what it really means, what he really requires, and that fear ultimately then increases your wisdom, because you're learning. And when you're learning in fear, if you like, I'm not saying that you sit there shaking and you're nervous all day and your hands rattling because you're expecting the Most High to punish you any second. But what makes you want to study these scriptures and make sure you do it properly? You've got to learn. It speaks of the beginning of wisdom, so you've got to get to the middle and to the end of wisdom. So you've got to build it up. So it's a process. And what's that? That ticking thing that constantly keeps pushing you towards doing that is the fear. You saw the eclipse on Monday, Monday the 4th, 8th, the 4th, 8th of the 4th in America, they call it 8/4. You had the solar eclipse. 3 days before that, you had the earthquake, the 4/8 earthquake in New York. And that was 3 days before the eclipse. So 3, 4 and 8, and then 4 and 8 gets repeated. And I did mention that I believe that on the solar eclipse, is showing us that Isaiah 34 and 8, the year of recompense, is coming up with this particular biblical Hebrew calendar year. Started last month in Aviv. And then you look at what happened when Apostle Tahar was making the video. Why would that particular happen at that particular time? It's because Yahawah Bahashim Yahawah is sending a message. So he used Apostle Tahar. He said, I know certain people are going to be watching this particular person. And he made the earthquake happen during that moment. And for someone who's sitting thousands of miles away and looking at that, going, well, what message am I being shown here through Yahawah Bahashim Yahawah? It's the fact that we know that what's about to happen, these terrible times. We keep telling you, time like never been seen before, the tribulation, all these things are coming. Yahawah Bahashim Yahawah is about to put that fear back into this planet. And it's not just about the day of the Lord, it's about a build-up of events that really bring judgment and drive. All I can say is, the time of tribulation is going to ultimately drive all joy and all happiness out of people. It's going to bring great judgment, great unhappiness, great sorrows. And by the end of it, you have the accumulation with the day of the Lord. So ultimately, what Yahawah Bahashim Yahawah is going to do is beat down this human race and maybe kill off quite a few of them. And ultimately, it is to bring that fear, just like in the time of ancient Egypt. The Most High hardened Pharaoh's heart to give him an excuse to throw the curses upon Egypt. And ultimately, that was in order to bring fear. I've mentioned it all the time. After that, you had the time, for example, of Joshua. People were fearing the Hebrew Israelites. They heard what happened in the land of Mizraim. And they said, now you can't really mess with these people. We call on our gods. We call on our different little gods. But when them Hebrew Israelites, when they call on their power, their Al-Shaja, bad stuff happens. And that's what's about to happen. That's where we're about to get to. But back to what I was just saying about the earthquake in New York. You've got this time coming up, which is going to, bring about great fear all over the planet Earth. Yahawah Bahashim Yahawah is going to do it, and we, as the hopeful members of the elect, we see the warning. And so 3 days before that, the 4th of the 8th, 3, 4, 8, Isaiah 34 and 8, I believe that's the year of recompense, is coming. And then you had a hopeful member of the elect making a video while Yahawah Bahashim Yahawah made the ground shake. Now initially, the obviously Apostle Tahar is this particular vessel, and this particular person at that time felt fear, as you naturally would. Instantly, with the ground shaking, you have that short, sharp intake of breath. But but by doing the work, and keep reading the scriptures and throwing up prayers, that gave Apostle Tahar comfort, and the comforter, the Holy Spirit, along with the scriptures, the understanding, kept him comfortable. And if you notice, while Apostle Tahar was doing the video, there was people building up outside the congregation that was separate from that hopeful member of the elect. And then these people represent the world, and they were in fear, and that's why they all congregated out in the hallway. So watching that short video, the ground shook while Apostle Tahar was making this particular video. It was an example to any hopeful member of the elect as how to deal with this great time of fear. We've had the warning on the 4/8, 3 days before the 4/8. You had an example of how to survive. If you look at what happened in that short, sharp video, it was you could advertise that as an example of how to survive Jacob's trouble. And keep teaching the word if it's possible, and just keep throwing up your prayers. So we're going to have fear when these events come to pass. We're telling you of them, we're warning you of them, we're trying to tell you how bad it's really going to get. No one's really getting it. And when it comes to pass, we're going to have a lot of those moments where we have those short, sharp intakes of breath. Your heart might skip a beat or two. But ultimately, you've got to remember, you've got that knowledge. You've been given the knowledge for a reason. And the reason is, hopefully you're a hopeful member of the elect. So you use that knowledge to throw up those prayers, and don't get involved with the crowd, the rest of the rest of the world. I mean, I'm pretty sure at some point Apostle Tahar would have gone outside and checked what's going on. Any natural person would. But there was a lesson right there. And why would the Most High use that particular vessel for that particular message? Well, maybe there's people that are window shopping in other camps that are, if you're going to window shop GMS, you're going to definitely watch the elders, at least Apostle Tahar and Kabar and Ramla. You're going to do that. People try to watch I will try to watch as many videos as I can, but I can't watch everybody's video every day. But there's a certain group of people that I will make sure I watch their particular videos. So, Yahawah Bahashim, Yahawah Shai knows all that. He knows all the intricacies and what everybody's watching, who's who. And so obviously he knows how to bring the message out. But that was 3 days before the 4th of the 8th with a 4.8 magnitude. That's a good example of how to survive what I believe is Isaiah 34:8. This is the start of the year of recompense, I believe. So, fear, wisdom, we have that. And it says here, to depart from evil is understanding. And, this whole world, there's no real fear in them. You have these Muslims people, for example, they fear their religion. You try and talk to a Muslim, for example, they fear their power. That's why they're ready to do suicide bombings and all that. But ultimately, it's all a lie. But they do instill fear into their people through their false religion. This religion over in the West, Christianity, mainly Christianity, even the Roman Catholic Church, they ultimately also go hand in hand, hold the hand with science. And science is there to teach you to believe in coincidence. And that's why you've got people standing, clapping at the moon. Because this amazing coincidence that took place. No, that coincidence is a sign that the Most High is about to instill fear. Over the course of the next year, he's about to instill great fear into the people of this planet. These Edomites are standing there clapping at the moon, but then they tell you through their scientific evidence that the moon is a rock. So how is it you're going to go and stand there clapping at a rock? It's literally the example of stupidity. If I went down the street on another night and I found a man clapping at the moon, you'd say he was crazy. If you found another man on another night clapping at a rock on the floor, you'd also claim that man was crazy. And these Edomites are crazy, and that's why they do things. They do these weird things. I mean, you think clapping at the moon is weird? What about when they start doing their alphabet stuff and their sexual immorality starts sticking it up people's buttholes? You think that's not weird? It's totally adverse to what's natural. And that's these weird people, these fucking Edomites. And this is Proverbs 1:7 says, the fear of Yahawah is the beginning of knowledge. So you can't get wisdom and you can't get knowledge without fear. It's non-existent. It says, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. And these people, for example, our people, our Israelites, that are don't follow this word, don't believe in this truth, and they found themselves out there clapping at the moon. You can consider yourself fools, because chances are, especially if you live in America, you've heard this word, and you walked away from it. So you didn't have any fear. You despised the wisdom and instruction. Proverbs 1:7 says, but you are a fool. It says Proverbs 9:10, the fear of Yahawah is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the holy is understanding. Holy meaning pure. But the thing about being pure, to be pure, you have to be separate from the impurities. Proverbs 15:33, the fear of Yahawah is the instruction of wisdom, and before honor is humility. So you can receive honor, and the Hebrew Israelites, the nation of Israel, the children of Yahawah, will receive great honor in the kingdom of heaven. Obviously you have a structure of power, starting with, you have Yahawah, King David, and leading on down, so on and so forth. But all Hebrew Israelites will have honor in the kingdom of heaven, and ultimately that is because the whole nation is going to fear Yahawah Bahashim Yahawah. Also, we will be made in a way that we will be able to follow the laws and statutes and commandments. But part of those laws, statutes and commandments is to fear Yahawah Bahashim Yahawah and pay reverence. So and then from that, obviously ultimately these other nations will pay homage and have to follow suit. So there will be honor for the children of Israel in the kingdom of heaven. But it says here, but before honor is humility. And humility in what? In fearing Yahawah and the instruction of wisdom. You may hear things that you don't really want to necessarily do. You say, you hear things in this truth, I don't want to have to do that, I don't want to have to do this. Even just growing a beard. You may have been clean shaven. I spent 38 years clean shaven before I came to this truth. And yeah, maybe once or twice I had an odd quick beard here and there. But and then all of a sudden you come to the truth, you say, damn, I've got to grow a beard out. And then I think I look quite scruffy with a beard. Then you start thinking about your job and all this kind of stuff. But ultimately I fear the Most High, so I'm going to grow that beard. I'm going to say fuck it and just see what happens. And the bottom line is, I remember thinking, okay, so if I'm going to grow this beard and I'm going to, I think now, okay, I look a bit scruffy, I don't really mind whether having a beard or not, but then I don't feel like I look as clean cut as I used to. How will I be accepted? When you go for a job interview, you go here, you go there, but you fear the Most High. And who's in control of these people? It's Yahawah Bahashim Yahawah, Allah Shaja, demon-like power. See, when you think like that, when you fear the Most High on that level, it doesn't matter what other people think or do. It doesn't matter whether you think you're going to be able to fit into this scenario or situation. The Most High will make them fit you in or make them not fit you in, depending on His will. So by fearing Yahawah Bahashim Yahawah, you bypass all that thinking, all that nonsense, all that headache, all that worrying, and you just go straight to the top. You call on Yahawah Bahashim Yahawah and you ask for help. Isaiah 11:2 says, and the spirit of Yahawah shall rest upon him. It's talking about the nation of Israel. The spirit of wisdom and understanding, that will be in the kingdom of heaven. It says the spirit of counsel and might, the spirit of knowledge and the fear of Yahawah. So that's going to be in the kingdom of heaven. Like I say, there's fear is going to be installed into the kingdom, into the children, of the nation of Israel. But with it, automatically, we would have wisdom, understanding, the spirit of counsel and might, the spirit of knowledge, with the fear. You can't get none of those without having the fear. As it said at the top, fear is the beginning of wisdom, fear of the Most High. Isaiah 33:6, and wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times. And those times, when you see that solar eclipse, the R and the Tha, what more of a signal do you want that something is about to happen with these particular times? We're looking for signs of the times. You just had the solar eclipse complete the X, complete the R and the Tha over America. So what more of a sign do you want? You can't get much more. You can't get much more plainer and clearer. The only way that Yahawah Bahashim Yahawah can make that sign clearer, that he's about to do damage to this kingdom, is by literally, flying a banner through the sky and telling everybody, or sending you a text message. I mean, how much more clear? That is pretty much like him sending a text message to us. Imagine you send a text message, this is about to go down next week, everybody watch out. Well, that was like a text message, that solar eclipse to the Hebrew Israelites, the elect, saying, I know you're awake, I know I put the spirit on you to be awake, I took the spirit of sleep and slumber off you. He knows every single one of them. He knows who's watching, he knows what they're doing. That other message that went out through Apostle Tahar, It was done because certain people will watch that particular person. You might even have people in other camps that will watch that particular person. So that, the Most High knows what he's doing and how he's orchestrating things. But that solar eclipse is like a text message to the members of the elect, warning us that things are about to change very drastically. For these Edomites, in Jacob's trouble, the MOTB, and these 2/3 of our people will get punished. World War III, deliverance, and the setting up of a new kingdom. One other way you could look at it is in the Batman sign. When you got the criminals are out, they're doing their thing, and then you have the damsel in distress. The damsel in distress is the nation of Israel. According to the scriptures, we are the woman of the Most High. So when the damsel's in distress and the criminals are doing their thing, then what happens? The Batman light goes up, and then everybody knows Batman's dead on the scene. So that and the Ta, that solar eclipse is like that. It's like that light, and so we waiting for rescue. We know that that the cavalry is pretty much on the way. And when I say on the way, you give it the next year. You give it the next year and see what happens. But before I go, there was one other example. I was thinking about the fear of Yahawah Bahashim Yahawashi, obviously watching the solar eclipse, and there was another video that I came across a couple of days ago, and it was this. And this also, I saw this, and this instantly creates fear within you. Now we know of Sodom and Gomorrah. Actually, let me just go back. Genesis. You go to the book of Genesis, for example. It says here, the Lord Yahawah rained upon Sodom and Gomorrah brimstone and fire, and from Yahawah out of heaven. It says down here, Sodom, Gomorrah, Admah, and Zeboim, and also Zoar, Zoar. So that's 5 places. When you hear of Sodom and Gomorrah, it's actually 5 places. And we know of this story. I'm not going to go too deep into it. That was Deuteronomy 29 and 23. And brimstone is another thing that's spoken of in the book of Revelation. Revelation 21 and 8, it says, but the fearful and unbelieving and the abominable and murderers and whoremongers and sorcerers and idolaters and liars shall have their part in the lake which burneth with fire and brimstone, which is the second death. So we tell you that America is going to be destroyed by nuclear ICBM. We tell you that so-called UFOs, UAPs, angelic vehicles of the Most High, basically chariots of Israel, they're going to turn up and shoot laser fire, concentrated laser fire on America. And when those laser fire shoots people, it will instantly remove all moisture from their body. And you're made up of 70% or whatever it is moisture. So when you remove the moisture instantly within a second, the only thing left is elements, but the elements are dust. So you pretty much get vaporized. So you've got nuclear ICBMs, so-called UFOs vaporizing people, and you're going to have brimstone falling onto America. And America, that lake of fire is America. And another example is, when you go back to Sodom and Gomorrah, you have them brimstone and fire out of heaven. Now we know this, I'm not going to go too deep into it, but I did come across this particular video here. Now, we know what happened in Sodom and Gomorrah. Very similar to America in terms of sexual immorality, all that nasty stuff going on. So ultimately, Yahawah Bahashim Yahawashi had to do away with it. And I was watching this video, and this particular Edomite-looking person went over there to do some studying, and he came up with this, and this is that sulfur. You've probably seen this before, but you see that particular ball of sulfur. And so what he does, he sets it alight. Takes the ball of sulfur. Now this sulfur is like 99.9% pure, like nowhere ever found on Earth or something like that. And then he sets it alight so you can see it burning there. Now we all know this, and I've heard the story 100 times. Sodom and Gomorrah, the Most High rained down, fire and brimstone upon them. And so you think of these like things, this fire just coming down from heaven, hitting people, burning them, things catching fire, so on and so forth. But there was an extra little bit that I didn't realise, which, again, it's that part of fear within you that makes you see it and you go, damn. When you go back to 2 Corinthians, it says, we persuade men because we know the terror of Yahawah Bahashim Yahweh Shai, and one of those terrors is to what you're going to see now. So you see the ball, it's on fire basically. There's no real massive flame, but it's pretty much lit. And so these would have been ignited in the heavens, maybe by angels, and thrown down to Sodom and Gomorrah, all the 5 cities. So there must have been millions upon millions of these coming down at once. And when he drops it on the floor, this is the part that creates the fear, because what they start to do, they start to melt. And this is the bit that people don't always explain. You think of, Sodom and Gomorrah, fire from heaven. I heard the story 1,000 times. But did you ever contemplate that when the sulfur balls hit the floor, they start to melt? If they hit the sea, they pretty much cooled down and didn't have any effect, so they would have fallen to the bottom. That's where he found a lot of them, on the seabed towards the beach, because obviously they're falling around that area, but some are falling in the sea, so they're instantly the ignition is going out, and then it's just left with a sulfur ball dropping down to the bottom of the bed. But the ones that hit the ground, they melt, they start to melt. And you can see, this guy here, he puts a few more on top, and eventually they all melt. So you imagine millions of these. I mean, he's just lighting it with I don't even know what temperature he's got them to. It can't be that great of a temperature. But you imagine the angels, setting these on fire. The temperature could have been so high, they could have been coming down with a flame from them, and then they would have been hitting the floor, then they would have melted. Then you start to consider, okay, so imagine if it's raining, and imagine the rain's burning you. But then you try to run out of the rain to get under cover, but then the cover, everything that it gets burnt, and then what it is, everywhere it hits the floor, it starts to melt. And so it's like, and then I imagine the 5 cities. It's like, imagine when you have cheese on toast and you have the big cheese slice, the big square cheese slice, and you slap it down and it melts, and the whole thing melts to the bread. And then once you've put it in the whatever, in the oven or whatever, and you try and take it out, and if you try to peel the cheese off, it's just going to rip off the bread. It's stuck. And so that's what I'm starting to gather with this brimstone. It's the balls of sulfur are hitting the floor, and they're melting. Millions of these all in one concentrated area, falling all together at the same time. The floor will be covered with that, burning black. So now you can't even run. This is why people couldn't really run away. And it's all good if they're locked in a place, but they could have just carried on running. You'd think 1 or 2 or 3 people would survive. No, only Lot and his 2 daughters survived. His wife could have survived, but she turned back, and one of these hit her. So you got to think, once it hits her, it would have started to melt all over her, and that's why you find that what they believe to be the statue of Lot's wife in Sodom and Gomorrah, because it's hitting her. These aren't just balls of fire just hitting you and burning your skin. Ow, ow, I've got burns everywhere. It's hitting you and then turning into cheese and melting and sticking to you and then melting. And so that's why she's still there in that one place. I don't know how big a ball hit her, I don't know how it hit her, but she literally got cooked. It's like what do they do in the fish and chip shops in the UK? They call it batter. So they take the sausage, or they take the meat. I mean, I don't eat all that shit, but they take the meat, I think it's a sausage, and then they dip it in the batter and they pull it out, and then so you got the sausage covered with the batter all around. That's what Lot's wife is. She's standing there. She's right there now. Her human remains would have been inside that casket of that shell, whatever you see standing there. But obviously that would have disintegrated a long time ago. So this is the type of things you see this and you think, damn, with all the fear you have, you see something extra and you think, damn, that's even more fear. This is even more reason to keep preaching the word of Yahawah Bahashim Yahweh Shai and do as you're supposed to. In this, I'll leave the link for this video in the description box. But the guy doing the study, he even finds bones, and some of the bones are warped, human bones, which have been warped by the heat. Can you imagine that? How painful that is. I looked up the word brimstone here. Where's the word brimstone? So you've got Gafri. It is written Gofri. I think it's Gafri, and it just says brimstone, judgment. The Most High's breath. I mean, that's not really giving you a good description. But what I did do is I went over to the. I was messing around with it in different ways, and then I ended up putting sulfur into the Do It in Hebrew, and it came up with Gafri. So I believe that is sulfur. But I mean, scientists will tell you, Esau is wiser than Daniel. So he's gone over there. He's picked up the balls. That guy knew to go to the sea, because he said I had a thought. Everybody's excavating the land, but why not go to the sea? Because the sulfur that fell would have cooled when it hit the sea and fell to the bottom, preserved. So that's how he knew where to go. So he's gone over there to the seabed, and that's how he's got all these balls, these sulfur balls. So they got the technology. They tell you what's going on. But before I go, the fear of all that, and understanding it and wanting to understand more and learn about it, then you start to think of the word melt. You think, well, let me look up in the scriptures the word melt, because that's something that's going to be done to the people in America, apart from the elect. You got these Edomites clapping at the solar eclipse, but the solar eclipse signifies your judgment, and your judgment, part of your judgment, a lot of you is going to melt like a piece of cheese. Some of you very quickly, some of you very slowly. When I look at, before I look at the word melt, actually, just looking back to the heat, the sulfur and things like that, what temperatures do humans melt at? This is most of what human consists of have a melting point. So a person must first pyrolyze into carbon, and at that point it will take about 10,000 degrees to melt the pile of carbon ash left over. Pyrolysis. So technically a person cannot be melted. Basically you can be melted, but what's got to happen is your body turns to carbon, and then at 10,000 degrees the carbon melts. Just depends on how you want to word it. So what temperature is of a nuclear fire? This is about 100 million degrees Celsius. During a peak, during the period of peak energy output, a 1 megaton nuclear weapon can produce temperatures of about 100 million degrees Celsius at its center, about 4 or 5 times that which occurs at the center of the sun. It's literally hotter than the sun, as Benjamin was always saying. So that 10,000 degrees is going to be no problem to turn you into carbon, and then to melt the carbon at 10,000 degrees. If you're in the lake of fire, Babylon the Great, whether it be through nuclear ICBMs or brimstone, there's going to be no problem reaching that temperature, because the ICBMs are hitting 100 million, and that's just one. That's just 1 megaton. What temperature to warp a human bone? This is the bone displayed warping after burning that lasted 180 minutes and reached a maximum temperature of 900 degrees. Warping has been used to determine the pre-burning condition of human skeletal remains. So these nuclear ICBMs are going to hit, this brimstone is going to hit, and people in America are going to melt. First of all, the bones are going to warp when they hit 900 degrees. Can you imagine that? Your bones warping. It's so hot. Obviously, the flesh will start to burn, and then the bones will warp, and eventually, you disintegrate into ash. You disintegrate. You turn into sort of more like dust, and then the carbon starts to melt when it hits over 10,000 degrees. And 10,000 degrees is nothing for the ICBM. In the Bible, it often appears in reference to the fate of the unfaithful. And brimstone, an archaic term synonymous with sulfur, evokes the acrid odor of sulfur dioxide given off by lightning strikes. The association of sulfur with divine retribution is common in the Bible. I mean, I'm not an expert on sulfur and brimstone. You could come up and say, well, no, brother, this is how it came down, or this and that. That's great. All I know is when I saw the sulfur melting on the floor and considered millions of those falling at once, ultimately that created fear. It says, why is sulfur harmful? Sulfur is low in toxicity to people. However, ingesting too much sulfur may cause a burning sensation or diarrhea. Breathing in sulfur dust can irritate the airwaves to cause coughing. So even if you manage to get shelter, and you end up irritating, and you couldn't escape, because where are you going to go to? If you found a little spot under a rock and you never got hit by no sulfur, but everything around you, there's melted sulfur, like melted cheese all over the floor. You can't get out. But ultimately, like I say, this all goes back to the fear. And just quickly, I did look up the natural source of sulfur. Turkey, beef, eggs, fish and chicken, nuts, seeds, grains. You could go on, whole grains, leafy green vegetables. There's many sources of sulfur. But, Yahawah Hashem Yahawah is sending it down concentrated, and he's ignited it. You need to watch out. I believe that was it. What temperatures does sulfur burn at or ignite at? Molten sulfur is flammable solid, and a fire and explosion risk above 450 degrees Fahrenheit, 232 degrees centigrade. So I normally deal with centigrades, 230 degrees centigrade for the solid, flammable solid sulfur to become molten. Molten is like, when you have molten metal, you burn, heat up the metal to the point where it melts, and you think that's, how hot that is. It's a bit like lava. So what the sulfur balls were doing when they're hitting the floor and then melting, and you join it all up and it covers the whole land, it's almost like a recreated the same effect. So before I go, I did look up the word, like I said, the word melt. And this is a good example of why you have to look up the original languages of what the scriptures were written in the Paleo-Hebrew or the ancient Greek, to get a better understanding. I found here 5 examples of the word melt, and each time I looked at the true meaning of the word, there was a completely different word written there. And 4 of them Paleo-Hebrew and 1 of them Greek. So for the sake of time, I'll try and breeze through it really quickly. So this one is 2 Peter 3:10. It says, but the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, in which the heavens shall pass away with great noise, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat, and the earth also, and the works that are therein shall be burned up. So that obviously references to the nuclear ICBMs. Don't forget the book of Revelation does tell us, obviously, brimstone. But when so this is obviously in the ancient Greek, being the book of Peter. Just trying to find that. What am I looking for? Melt. Yeah. So the word leo. So this is the ancient Greek word leo. So it said loose, break, unloose, destroy, dissolve, put off, melt, break up, break down. So that's what, a description of what the ICBMs are going to do. So, when you think of the human, first of all, the bones warp, then eventually turn into the carbon, so you're broken down, dissolved in one way, but then the carbon then melts above 10,000 degrees. So there's many different forms of breaking down, and like I say, in English they've put the word melt, but in the ancient Greek you've got the word leo. And now in the Paleo-Hebrew you've got 5 others. Sorry, I said 4, I think it's 5. Try and bounce through these real quickly. So this is Ezekiel 22 and 20. As they gather silver and brass and iron and lead and tin in the midst of the furnace to blow the fire upon it, to melt it, so will I gather you in mine anger and in my fury, and will leave you there and melt you. The fire upon it to melt. So you have the word natak. Paleo-Hebrew this time, not ancient Greek. Natak. Pour out, melt, poured forth, gathered, molten, dropped, gathered together. So and melt. So so the silver and the brass and iron, they're ultimately solids, but fire is to be blown upon it to melt it. So in order to turn it into a liquid, pouring out. It's a bit like what the sulfur ball did when it hit the floor. It started to melt. And this is Jeremiah 9 and 7. Thus saith Yahawah of hosts, behold, I will melt them and try them, for how shall I do for the daughter of my people? So again, this is when it says to try them, to melt them, to try them, talking about the children of Israel. So we had an attack, but this time we have Sarap, or Saraf, to melt, to refine, to test. So there's another process when you're trying to refine. Try, founder, goldsmith, refine, refiner, melt, pure, purge away, casteth, finer. Like the elect at the minute, they're tried like gold in the fire in order to remove impurities from them, and ready for Yahawah's return. So again, like before, it's a similar process where you have the goldsmith, or the metal worker. I forgot the actual phrase. Working on the metals, he might turn the solids into the liquid in order to pour them out. There's an attack. In this case, it's a process of refining. Soraf. Psalms 112. That's 3. This is number 3 out of the 5. So there's only 2 after this. Psalms 112:10 says, the wicked shall see it and be grieved. He shall gnash his teeth and melt away. The desire of the wicked shall perish. It's talking about judgment to the wicked. This is Psalms 112. And prosperity for the ones who fear the Lord, which is what the subject is about. So prosperity to the ones that fear the Lord. Don't worry about the wicked. It says here, the wicked shall see it. When those that are righteous are risen up, and the wicked shall see it and be grieved. He shall gnash his teeth and melt away. The desire of the wicked shall perish. So here we have masas. So it's a third word now under the word melt. So you can't just look at the word melt. If you think of melt, you just think of one thing. You think of like that piece of cheese melting in the oven. But there's different types. There's different types of different reasons and different ways in which you could melt things. And so the wicked, ultimately the Edomites, Obadiah 1 and 18, or Obadiah 18, they will melt when they're done away with, pretty much Obadiah 1 and 18. But even their desires will perish. Even those will melt away. So this time it's a masas, melt, faint, melt away, discouraged, loosened, molten, refuse, utterly. So when the wicked see us in power, the kingdom of heaven is established, they're going to realize there's no way around it. They just have to serve the captivity that they got. And their wickedness, their thoughts, is going to melt away, the way that it's going to perish, the way that they actually That all their ideas against us, and ultimately, physically, and when we reach Obadiah 1 and 18, and then they will physically melt away. Psalms 58 and 7 says, let them melt away as waters which run continually. So, water that's running away continually like a river doesn't melt, but they've used the word melt. So you would think of that piece of cheese melting on the toast, but it's not talking about that. It's talking about water disappearing. Let them melt away as waters which run continually. When have you ever seen water melt? But again, you go to melt, you have ma'as. So the previous one was masas. Spell M-A-S-A-S. This is M-A-A-S. Sorry, I know my pronunciation is not the greatest. This is mo'as, slightly different. And from the previous one, this is despise, refuse, reject, abhor, become loathsome, melt away. Because you're hanging around with somebody and you discover some home truths about him. Maybe you don't want to confront the guy and cause a big argument, but you realize, I need to stop being around this particular person. And so eventually you'll melt away. You'll stop ringing the guy, stop having contact, and then eventually they'll get the message that he ain't really on it to hang around with us. And when it mentioned, it says reject, when you go back to the precepts, Psalms 58 and 11, let them melt, 58 and 7, let them melt away as waters which run continually. So it's almost, if you had a paddling pool in the garden for the children, those inflatable paddling pools, and you fill it up with water, and then at the end of the day, you pull the plug, and what do? You let the water run away. So you're rejecting the water within the inflatable swimming pool. You're rejecting the water, and it's running so you're letting it, that paddling pool, let it melt away as water which run continually. And then the inflatable, the water level goes down, the inflatable paddling pool caves in, collapses as the water disappears, because the water was holding up the shape. Those little children inflatable paddling pools. And ultimately you could describe that scene as a melting away, but it's not melting like a piece of cheese on your toast. It's melting, let them melt away as waters which run continually. So that's 4 examples, all of the word melt, and we've had 4 different words. This is number 5. This is Nahum chapter 1. The mountains quake at him, and the hills melt, and the earth is burned at his presence, yea, the world and all that dwell therein. Speaking of the Most High, and so the hills melt. And it says, obviously, the mountains, what does it say? The mountains quake at him, the hills melt, and the earth is burnt. Now, we do have that, is it Mount Sinai? We have the so-called burning of the mountain. There's examples of that. That's what the scientists say. But again, now this word moog, for melt, this is number 5. 5th Paleo-Hebrew word that we found under the word melt in English, in the scriptures. Or this is the blue letter, the Bible itself. And this is melt, dissolve, faint, melt away, consumed, faint-hearted, to melt, to cause to melt, to soften, to dissolve, to dissipate, to melt, to flow. So there are different words, and this is why we would say to you, you can't just look up the English and just say, well, that's what it means. There's 5 versions there of the word melt, and every time I think of the word melt, I think of a piece of cheese on a piece of toast, or I think of those balls, the sulfur balls in Sodom and Gomorrah and the other 3 cities, melting on the floor all around. But yet, there's different ways, different words that are used behind that Paleo-Hebrew words, which give you better understanding. Psalms 58, talk about let the waters melt away. So that's a completely different. That's nowhere near like the cheese or toast, or nothing like the balls of sulfur that melt on the floor. So just looking at that, I thought that was, edifying for anyone that's new to understand. If you've got the fear, it's the beginning of wisdom, and then you have to follow instruction. One of those instructions is to identify what the scriptures really mean, and you need to do that by going into the Paleo-Hebrew or the ancient Greek. So I'll leave you with this. This is Isaiah 59 and 19. It says, "So shall they fear the name of Yahawah from the west, and his glory from the rising of the sun. When the enemy shall come in like a flood, the spirit of Yahawah shall lift up a standard against him." So that solar eclipse signifies a turning of events. From now on, we're keeping an eye out for Jacob's trouble. We know a few things have to happen. CBDC is almost ready to go. The civil wars, almost ready to go. World War III is almost ready to go. Just to need a few things, the new false flag events. Talking about things coming out again. These pestilences. Lord willing, a pestilence comes soon. Bring a pestilence, bring a lockdown. Put pressure on the economy. Maybe that will tip us over the edge to crash it, and they can hurry up and introduce this MOTB. These things could all take place within the next year, within the next 11 months. And but whatever we're telling you that the time like never been seen before is about to befall this planet Earth. So that's fear. That solar eclipse should induce fear into these people, but they don't, because they don't have fear. It induces fear within us. However, we're also looking forward to this time, the hopeful members of the elect. It says here, "When the enemy shall come in like a flood, the spirit of Yahawah shall lift up a standard against him." And when you look up the word standard, it pretty much goes to a fleeing away. The spirit of Yahawah shall lift up a fleeing away against him. So the hopeful members of the elect, those that the Most High is going to protect, possibly through the 144,000 mainly, you're going to see certain men obtain spiritual power during that time of Jacob's trouble, which we believe is going to come up in the next year. So on one hand, you're gonna see the downfall of this empire, but on the other hand, you're gonna see a huge increase on the righteous hand side. And the righteous hand side is 144 and the members of the elect. And like I say, certain members of that group are going to start to receive spiritual power during that time of Jacob's trouble. The Most High will lift up a standard against him. Against who? Against the Edomites. Now, a standard is a noose, which we know what people can do with nooses. They hang themselves. It says, flee away, abated, displayed, flight, hide, flee out, lift up a standard. So, once these particular members of the elect receive the spiritual power, that is a standard being lifted by the spirit of Yahawah, and that will cause a fleeing away. But in the beginning, the main reason I went to this particular precept, Isaiah 59 and 19, says, "So shall they fear the name of Yahawah from the west, and his glory from the rising of the sun. When the enemy shall come in like a flood, the spirit of Yahawah shall lift up a standard against him." So these people out here, you're going to fear Yahawah Bahashim Yahweh Shai. They don't at the minute. Allah Shaja, they're going to recognize it's all coming. These Hebrew Israelites that recognize they're Hebrew Israelites, they come into this truth with zero amount of fear. Ultimately, they never take on board the wisdom, the knowledge and the understanding, and that way they never grow. So ultimately, they think they're going to do themselves a service by giving themselves a chance to be delivered in the day of Yahawah Bahashim Yahweh Shai, but chances are they're not. So I hope that's edifying. I'm going to leave it right there. Until next time, I'm going to say all praises to Yahawah Bahashim Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Rakah Kwadash. And until next time, Shalom.